Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about cross+1, which is a very important concept as you get better at the 3x3. So let's get right into this. So as you might have guessed, cross+1 is a concept where in inspection, you try and look for the solution of your cross plus one F12 pair. And this is assuming you use the CFOP method. So in this video, I'm just going to talk about why that's important and the different patterns that you can use to kind of recognize where you can look for a cross+1 or even more, sometimes cross+2. Also do stick around till the end of the video where I go through the examples of different types of cross+1 cases that you can get, and I also find this insane solution on one of the scrambles, so do stick around. The first thing you need to know is that cross+1 is really important when it comes to speed solving in the sub 10 range, because at that range you're really trying to get over with as much of the solution in your head as possible with respect to the start of the solution, not the entire thing. That takes years of practice, and I don't even know if there's people who can one look an entire solve yet. I don't think so. So the advantage of cross+1 is that in inspection you can completely do your solution of cross+1 in your head, and then you can start from the second pair directly, and you don't have to think about anything while you make that transition, which is the best part about cross+1. And the prerequisite for this is you should be able to solve your cross blindfolded every single time without fail. So for example, if I have this kind of a scramble, I'll see that, okay, I have blue here, I have orange here, I have green here, and I have red back here. And my solution to this cross, while it might not be the best, I would be able to do something like UFLF to solve orange and green. And then I can just solve the entire cross with a D prime, or I can rotate here and do something like this. So ideally you should be able to make all of these moves in inspection. So something like that would be my cross, and yeah, I did it without looking. Of course you can't see that because I'm behind the camera, but anyway, something like that is cross blindfolded. The next step is to see a pair like this in inspection. That is what cross+1 training is, and that's what you should try to do on more of your solves. So just remember, after you're able to solve your cross blindfolded, the only goal you have is to track any two pieces that belong to the same pair. For example, it was this pair, it could have also been this pair. So the goal is to always be able to track at least two other pieces apart from your 4 cross pieces, so 6 pieces in total. And you should always be able to either influence where they're going, or just remember where they're going, or just know that they're going to end up in a certain place, even if you don't know the orientation. Now when it comes to this, there's many techniques of doing cross+1. So there's, I would say, 3 different categories of these. The first type is pair preservation. It's the example that we just saw. You saw the pair on the left. Something like that, preserving that pair through your cross, is one of the techniques of making an X cross. And ideally this is not an X cross, it's more of just, I know where my first F12 pair is, and I know that I have a pair that's in inspection, and I can preserve it while I'm doing my cross. So that's the pair preservation technique. And then you have pair tracking, which would be something like this. So in this case, I see this is my cross. It's just a random cross I hand scrambled just now. So orange is here, green is here, red is here, and blue is here. And when it comes to pair tracking, I just need to find 2 pieces of a pair and track them. In this case, I'm going to track the white, red, blue and the red, blue pair. And the reason for this is, for example, my solution to this cross is going to be R2F, DLF, D prime. So those 7 moves should solve my cross. And R2F will take this corner here, D will bring it here, L will bring it here, and F D prime won't affect it. So at the end of all of that, this corner is going to be here. Now note that I don't know the exact orientation of this just because I haven't practiced this enough myself. But just knowing that the pair is there is enough knowledge for me to get right into it after I solve my cross. When I do something like that, see, the pair was already solved. And I'll be honest, I didn't know it would be solved, but that's a huge benefit for me because I can now just solve it into the back like that and literally go on with the rest of my solve. And like just like that, F12 is done. And that's the benefit of being able to do pair tracking and inspection and starting your cross+1 journey. And one really important thing when it comes to pair tracking is that by tracking your pair, you're actually extending the blindfolded cross solving thing to the blindfolded cross+1 thing, if you get what I'm saying. So initially you can practice how to solve your cross blindfolded, but eventually that cross will transition to a cross+1, and you can do that blindfolded as well, and then you can go to your second pair and then the third and so on. So that's how you kind of build this kind of castle in your head of, okay, I have the cross and then I have the first pair, the second pair, the third pair, and so on. And in your head, if you're able to solve a multitude of those steps, you will get faster and faster with respect to how quickly you start your solve. And that's always the best thing because you want the best start for every single solve. And the third technique is, I probably can't set it up right off the top of my head, but the third technique is an X cross, which is where you have an extended cross. And let me see if I can do something about that. Say you have a case like this and you've solved these two cross pieces. Now you have the green and the red here, and you also have this white, red, blue edge piece which we've been talking about, and the corresponding corner is here. And I know if I do an L2 to solve the green, I will also solve that. But in the next cross, you want to solve that and also solve the edge. So of course there's different ways, different techniques in the X cross technique itself. You can have an edge and a corner together, and I will be showing this in the example solves, but you can have an edge and a corner together, or you can have an edge solved and a corner somewhere else, etc. But in this case, I'm solving this cross piece and that solves this. And while solving the red, I can just do that to solve the cross with the pair. So now that you understand the different techniques, let's get into the examples. Today I have 5 examples for you, and you can just follow along with the scrambles either up here or in the description down below. Okay, so here's the first scramble. And the first thing I see is, well, I see that red and orange are already oriented. I mean, they're in the right place with respect to each other. They're permuted correctly. Sorry, they're oriented correctly. They need to be permuted. And the blue cross piece belongs here. So I can do an L2 to solve the blue. And then I can solve the white green in a very neat way. So after doing the L2, I can actually do R prime wide U prime R to solve white green, which is equivalent to R prime D prime F with a rotation. So that is my cross. But in this case, I also noticed this, which is the first pattern I want to talk about, which is when you have an F12 edge that's with its center already, that's usually an indicator that you can influence it to make an X cross or a cross plus 1. In this case, that'll be a really nice cross plus 1 because I could make it an X cross because I also have the corner here, but I like the cross plus 1 because of how it finger tricks. So once I solve the blue, the red-green edge is going to be solved. It's going to be between the red and green. The corner is here, and with R prime D prime F, that'll actually solve the corner into the right spot, which is here, and D prime would solve the pair. But when I do the F, that's going to kick the pair out. So instead, I could either do R prime D prime, and then before doing the F, I'd have to preserve the pair with L F L prime. But instead of doing that, I'm going to use the wide move that I was talking about earlier and do something like this. L2, R prime U prime R, which the U prime being a wide U prime, and that should cause the pair to come up here. Seeing this in inspection is useful because R prime, U prime, R. That was a wide U prime that solved that and got the pair here. And this is really useful because all of these moves would have been made in maybe a second to 1.5 seconds, which is really fast because you have literally F12 plus 1, cross plus 1 F12 in 1.5 seconds. And you can immediately jump into the next pair and the next pair and the next pair. That's how quick F12 can be if you do cross plus 1. And that's the entire goal of cross plus 1 at the end of the day. Please ignore that VPUM. I don't know why I did that. Anyway, so that's the first scramble. And now you know what kind of patterns to look for. You're looking for solved edges and nearby corners for a particular F12 pair. So let's move on to the second scramble. Okay, so this is the second scramble, and here immediately right off the bat, I see my cross pieces are here, green, orange, blue, and red. And I also have the green-orange edge solved, which is really interesting because what that means is I can solve the green-orange corner in between the green and orange cross pieces. And when I do the D2, I'll have a pair in the back. So that's one of my steps for the X cross. In this case, it's an X cross because I'm extending the cross into the first pair. So when I do something like, let's say I do R to solve this, I can also do an R2 instead of an R. Because what that'll do is allow me to bring this corner in between these two edges like that with a U2. And then R prime. And then I can do D prime R, D prime, U prime, R2. Something like that. In fact, the R2 now cancels into this pair, which doesn't cancel, which leads into that pair and then the last pair. So just like that, the solve's pretty much done. But you will not believe this insane solution that I found for this. So instead of doing that, you can do, the first moves are the same. It's R2, U2, R prime. So to solve that, these two cross edges and this corner. But you can also do something really crazy by noticing that you have the white-blue cross piece back here. You have the white-blue-red corner here, and the blue-red edge is solved, which is another indicator, as we discussed, of an X cross. So in this case, I could do something like L2, U, L2 to solve this cross edge and pair this corner with this cross edge. Something like this. what this does is preserves this, solves this cross edge, preserves this and the solved edge. And now when I do d prime r d prime, I will be kicking out this edge, but there's something really cool about this. I don't know if you've noticed it already, but there's a really cool multi-slot case here. When you do d prime r, this edge is going to come up here, this block's going to be on the left, and I can keyhole this edge back into this slot with u prime r prime. But also when you do d prime r, this pairs with this, and when you do u prime r prime, you're going to set this up for a 3-move insert in the back, which means your solution looks something like this: d prime r, u prime r prime, d prime u prime r to solve that. And just like that, you have 3 pairs solved, which is quite remarkable, if I may say so myself. So that's something really cool I found in this solution. And while it is hard to kind of see that entire thing in inspection, it's not impossible, because r2 r prime only influences these layers of the cube, and you know this is going to end up here, and you know that this is going to solve with r2 r prime. That's the benefit of that. You solve that, and then you do L2 L2 to solve that, and then d prime r this, d prime that. All of that is 3 pairs. So cross plus 3 in inspection, which is obviously, I would probably not have seen that in a real solve, but it's just me giving you advice on what patterns you need to look for to build those cross plus n solutions. Now on to the third one. So this is the third scramble, and the first thing I notice on this scramble is this block. So the corner is with the cross edge. So when I do FL to solve the blue and orange cross edges, that block's going to be solved. And the corresponding edge is here, which I can actually use while solving this cross edge, because this is on the same layer as the blue and orange pair. And when I do FL, this will be an L away from being solved. So when I do the FL, I'm just going to do an R prime D2 to put this here, and then L to solve the cross edge and the edge, and then DU R2 to solve this cross edge and that pair. So I did FL, so now, R prime D2L to solve this and the edge. And now I can just do a DU R2. In fact, I'm going to make this an RUR so that I can go right into this pair and then go ahead from there. So that's another example of a cross plus 1, where in that case you only had a corner with the cross edge and you had to manipulate the edge's position with respect to that corner. But that's something you can also do, which is take the edge around and use it while solving another cross edge to make that block. This is the fourth scramble, and here again I'm noticing some things off the bat, but there's also some things that are very interesting here. For example, I see this white, red, blue with the cross edge, and I see that's the corner, I see this is the edge. So what I can do here is something very interesting. So I could do DR to solve these with respect to each other, blue with green and orange with red. And when I do DR, this is going to be here. And when I do another D to solve this cross edge, I can actually do F prime and then R to solve this F2L edge into the right slot, and then another D to solve the cross minus this. But also I see this pair and I really want to preserve it, so I'm going to solve this in the back and then solve that edge. This might not be the most optimal, this is probably something I would do, so let's go with that solution. D, R, D, and here F prime R to solve that edge and this cross edge, D to solve that. And now before I do the B for this, which I could very easily do, I would like to solve this in the back, so I'm just going to solve that pair in the back like that, and then I have this cross edge here which I can just do that with, and then I can go right into this pair and then the last pair. So just like that, F2 is done, and that's another application of cross plus 1. In that case we did cross plus 1, but it wasn't the entire cross, it was cross minus one edge plus one pair plus the other pair, and then we inserted the last edge. This is known as free fop, and I don't know if you've heard of this, but free fop is where you kind of do C fop, but you have a freedom of your F2L pairs or your cross edges in terms of order, and it's very useful for cases like that. I will say that may not have been the best case to demonstrate that, but still it's a useful case. Now onto the last scramble. Okay, this is the last scramble, and here I honestly see some very, very crazy stuff here, because obviously you see this white, orange, blue corner right here, but I also noticed that the white, orange, green corner is here and the orange edge piece is there, which, because blue and green are oriented opposite to each other right now, the orange actually belongs here. And the really cool thing is, instead of just doing r prime f r, which would give me this block, I think I can influence this with that edge. So I'm gonna do LU L prime to pair these two, and then U prime R prime F R to make an entire 1/2/3. That's not what it is it? It's just a 2/3, I apologize. It's not a cube. I don't know why I added 3 dimensions. Anyway, to build a 2/3. And by doing so, I can then influence this to be solved back here, and this to be solved back here. So the entire solution is gonna be LU L prime, which brings this up here, and then U prime R prime F R, and then I'm going to rotate, and potentially, since LU L prime is going to bring it here, might rotate twice, so might be a quick Y2 flip, insert RU prime R prime, and then D L2 D, or D prime L2 D prime, apologies. So the entire solution is going to look something like this. I'm going to pair this first with LU L prime, U prime R prime F R to make that block, and then quick Y2 flip, to actually, okay, that was my mistake. I did not need a Y2 flip there. I think what I needed was just that. But okay, let's just say I do the Y2 flip, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, because I will have to make an F move, whether it's from here or from here. So let's just do a Y flip and go R prime U R to insert that in the back. And now, if you notice, I have this block, I have this solved, and this is an F2 away. So while fixing the cross D prime, I'm going to do the F2. And then the other D prime. And just like that, I have a 2/2/3, which is a really cool thing. And then I can just go ahead and solve the last cross edge like this. So I'm not even going to do R2 here. I'm going to do R prime U R prime, because that leaves this paired. And then I'm just going to insert that, and that's it. F2L is done. So that was the last of the examples, and I really hope this video was helpful to you in understanding the benefits of Cross+1, and hopefully it motivates you to actually go and do Cross+1 on as many solves as you can. And yeah, again, I will give a disclaimer. This is just the way I look at Cross+1. There's probably better tutorials out there, better resources for you to learn, and I might leave a few in the description, so please do check that out. But yes, this is how you do Cross+1, and this is what you should look for in terms of patterns, and I hope the example solves really enunciated that point. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next video. Peace.